Okay, what did I do? I'm in the gaming industry for 30 years. Started when games were really small. I had to type my first games into an Atari 800 or a C64 via listing. If I did anything wrong, the game didn't work, just like yours. And at the Atari 800, when my best friend's mom switched it off, the game was gone. So this is as hard as gaming life was in the late 70s, early 80s. I also worked with game developers that are famous right now when they had 5, 10, 8, 2 people teams that grew larger over the years. So I can say I worked on hundreds of indie games, and I reviewed as an editor hundreds of indie games because in the times there was only indies, there were no gaming mega corporations. And today I wanted to talk to you about hardship and desperation and possible death. Okay, so you need to listen closely. So this is basically like a indie dev Souls-like walkthrough that shows you some pitfalls, has some spoilers, how you can end, how you can die, and some parts start with concept. Who of you is already developing a game right now? And who of you is in concept stage? That's good. So you can still avoid a few mistakes more than the other guys. And one important check is if you want to make a bigger game each time, and you have also freedom to do anything you want, of course, is your game commercially viable? And how much is it commercially viable? You don't need to do a Need for Speed, a GTA, or whatever, but just check with Steam databases and so how much did your inspiration sell? So if your inspirations just sold 5,000 copies, the largest one, you probably sell less. And if you fill a niche that's very grateful received on any platform, because niches, besides blockbuster things like you mix a shooter with an RPG, are selling best. And then you need to check for free press coverage, for earned influences, how newsworthy is your game? Can you imagine a headline about your game at Kotaku, IGN, GameStar? Can you see an influencer opening his newsreel with the concept of your game? Is it cool enough to be there? If it's yes, they will do it. If it's not, you need to probably rethink it again to be newsworthy, because otherwise that level is just much harder. And you need to think about, is it streamable? But I come to this later. I have 3 examples here. It's Gone Home versus Tacoma. Gone Home, as you know, is an indie bestseller, long seller, etc. Tacoma is from the same team and sold much less. Why? Gone Home is a home, everything a human can relate to. Tacoma is a space station, AIs, and it's more complicated as a gamer-game relationship, so it sold much less. Some people blamed it on did not have enough streamers, but it's also not a very streamable game. And in my opinion, it had all the news coverage it got really good coverage. It should have sold. If Gone Home would have gotten that much more coverage, it would have sold even better. And then I have here a very sad example of game art. It's Cloud Chasers. It was published by Swiss studio Blindflug for mobile. And it's a father and a daughter trying to escape a deadly desert and followers from a big megacorp who tried to kill them, and in the end to go to a foreign country. So it's a migration story. It could be Mexico, America. It could be Syria, Germany. It has a nice look. It's for mobile, but it's a very hard game. And among the review processes, there was the truth revealed that if you want to rescue daughter and father, you likely not succeed. The father dies at the end. So some people were saddened by games that they could play on mobile with mobile controls that are harder. And in the end, they likely not succeed for a happy ending. This is also putting people off a lot, and people will find that out about you again if the sad ending is like 90% of your possible choice. It got a German developer Deutsche Entwicklerpreis award. Its first one is a Swiss game. And if it would have been on PC, dark and grisly graphics, survival mechanics, it could have been as hard as it is. There could be more blood and gore, not nice graphics, and it probably would have sold a lot. But on mobile, nice graphics, artsy fan style, not so well. Death by team positioning. So I can proudly spot the member of the Cyberpunk development team here. So that's awesome. Which part of the game do you do? Sorry, great, awesome, right answer. A member of the Wu-Tang Clan, direct from Staten Island. Yeah, and some member from Led Zeppelin. So that's really great. Yet I also saw somebody who did it all right. Somebody represents me. Clap your hands to him. He did everything right. He did what you should do as a developer in branding, in getting known. Just put your logo on your t-shirt, on your hoodie, on your shirt, on your backpack, on everything. You don't need to sticker it back and front, do a stupid slogan on top on the same shirt. That probably would be too much, but like I wear my logo and I do my CI, orange and black this time, even up to my shoes. You should stick out of the masses of people that are at a GDC, at a Gamescom, at a whatever. And even if you're a former member of Me or a former member of CD Projekt Red, that's not news alone today, okay? There are so many former members of CD Projekt Red that nobody impressed, even if you would write about that. It's just a too common fact now. And you can do what those three people did there. That's Robot Gentleman, a Polish studio, and they go full steampunk cosplay at every event they are, okay? And they sacrifice health, because if they go out like this in a very cold winter, like one reboot where I met them, they really freeze hard in those steampunk even jackets. It's not helping, okay? They freeze like in the movies you saw where people freeze to death in that age. But they get immediately recognized, get some fame for it, and are even stylish that way. Then another part of what you could call your corporate communications, your team positioning, is put a team section on the website. I stumble across so many indie games where nobody is listed who works on it everywhere, okay? That's sad. Make a bio section. If you're just two people, list all your freelancers because you know you have them or you have them later, and share a few insights. Why you are, what is your philosophy, what drives you to do this game, because people will want to know, they will like you for doing it. And you can do this on your website and 1 or 2 or 3 well-maintained Twitter accounts. It's also important that when you're then perfectly branded and findable, that you introduce yourself a lot on events so you get more known. Just think about all the connections you can make that help you to get ahead faster, that might coach you, etc. And please get business cards. I meet so many indies. I ask, here's my card. Oh, I have no card. Then ask why. And the answer is, I should have done them. I ran out of them. It's a good idea. I wanted to make them 3 days before the show and it didn't work. And it's so easy. You just print 550 euros, done. And if you want to go more stylish, it costs a bit more. So many people who lay out them. if they're more stylish, it immediately also increases your recognition. It's not hard. And I want to end the slide with a quote from Cliffy B. Rather be loved or hated than forgotten. So you can be vocal on the internet. You can have one or two extreme opinions on this and that. You don't need to mainstream in with everybody else. It might be very, very politically correct, but it not gets anything you think out of there because people are not interested. Good. Death by community. We just today launched a game called WERK1 from a French studio. We started with them in 2016. And if you ask me what they did finished the game in the long run finally. But they also grew ever since they started a community. And this community now is very large, and there are several people in a small studio working on it. And in this studio, they are full time. And in your even ever so small studio, if you are 5 people, try to have 2 people work on community, check in, 2 because somebody could be sick, somebody could be on holiday, but updates should be more relentless. Start out social media stealthily. It doesn't help if you start out and say, this is my social media page with 1 tweet or 2 Facebook posts, and roughly put in work to work with your community after every announcement, and maybe even before a beat with super fans that amplify your message. It's free organic traffic, free support by basically volunteers for your game. And the most important news over the last 2 to 3 years is react to feedback, and especially react to feedback on Steam or everywhere where somebody could comment on your game. Steam review negative is killing many games that are very buggy or a bit too buggy, or maybe not so buggy, by just one negative comment from one troll that triggers another troll and triggers another troll, and then it's a chain reaction. And your game might not even be that bad, but if somebody would have stopped the first troll and moved in there bravely with a nice response, with a thought out message, the other trolls won't come, okay? You bear the light. And use hashtags like IndieDev or many fitting to your games because you could be retweeted. Do a Discord and just be regular with communication. Don't leave out 3 months with anything you do. Just plan it a little. I understand you cannot, when you develop a game, post every day 5 things. It's understandable. Trailers on YouTube also gather a community. You need to have a very good trailer, but also below there is a comment section, and you absolutely need to check what happens there, because if you don't, 3 people can dislike your concept, and then everybody agrees, and this is also very bad for your game. And think about, if you want to think much farther, YouTube, Google, etc. is not available in China, so if you want to think to another continent, in China, you need to have somebody in Chinese checking comments, and they are very active, and they're also very tough on trailers, etc. So don't just think about YouTube and everything you know from the West. Stream as a studio. So if people are interested in you as a game dev, you can stream to 50, 20, 200 people. It's not a big stream. It doesn't look like the Rocket Bean streaming, but they will like it, and you get basically a little bit of media training because you have to act in front of a camera for quite some time. So if ever the Rocket Beans invite you, or for some reason Gronk at the Gamescom and says, hey, come over here, you maybe look better if you have done it than you have never done it. And then about community starting with Kickstarter. Kickstarter today, in most cases, is not your moneymaker, not for the most part of your budget, but it's a very nice community tool that helps you in maintaining, managing your community. So think about if you want to build a community with a little bit of money on top, think about Kickstarter still. It's not your main moneymaker at all. As said, it will not help you to totally fund your game, unlikely, except you're super lucky, but it also helps you to get in front of people, and they have many platform tools that work. And you will find out with many tools that you start to use that you maybe do mistakes and lose a bit of community by just using them. Good. Networking, you're here, you do networking, you did one thing right. Please go to places far abroad, like a Nordic game. So Lena arranged a booth for Bavarian developers to be at this Nordic, and I read the conference program of the Bavarian government, and you even will go to Nordic in 2021. So let's cheer to Nordic. It's awesome because it's important to see people from other countries get their opinions. And you can do this probably as easy if you do a DevCom before Gamescom. There are also student tickets for all those events. Or if you want to have another insider tip for a conference besides Nordics that is very established, and Reboot now also gets very established in this near the nice coastal town of Dubrovnik in Croatia, right at the spring of summer. It's not a bad place. It's not a conference with a speed matchmaking system, but you likely meet a few people that help you to get ahead in your career, because very likely 80% of the audience has more experience than you. And about networking with your fans, with your community, with press, try to be at Gamescom at one of the many indie booths there now with a small slot, one PC, one console, one screen, 2 people, because I said you likely need to take shifts over 5 days to present your game. Somebody will lose his voice in the end. And try to be at GDC, at Serindie Spaces. There is a German booth. There are other booths to be at. You can apply for some of those booths. And PAX for indie studios, PAX South, not so much, but PAX West, PAX East are a good place to be as an indie, to get a totally different opinion from another continent. Okay, you want to do this early. Don't just loiter around Munich or just Munich and Cologne. Try to go somewhere abroad fast and soon and more often, okay? And if you want to get to know the big guys, E3 is still a good place. If you hang out in CJW, the ticket costs, there is no ticket needed to hanging out there. You likely meet people from many powerful companies. You have a beer with them, and maybe something happens, like somebody says, hey, can you go on my streaming platform? And you say, yeah, how much you offer? Oh, there's a guarantee of X. He says, that's nice. When can we start? He says, now. And you have a new platform to be at, and you didn't know about that streaming platform before you went to E3. And I know it's not so popular now to go to China, but actually I will go if I can in July for China Joy in Shanghai. I have some clients there. It was a very good show for me last year. And if you're scared of the fairgrounds and hundreds and thousands of people, the important meetings, just like E3, happen in hotels with security gates, and probably by then a heat screener. And China, I come to that later, right now could be your biggest market. And if you meet people, even without business cards, because you forgot them again, then you pull out your LinkedIn app do a scan with the scanner in it, or type in your name and add those people immediately. And later on, when you next morning or after the event, awake drunk in your hotel, you see those emails that you added those people and there are those names. So I go sometimes back to my mail store and check who I met last March, because those were the people I met at, after, or before GDC. That's by platform. I would say if you're an indie in today's world, even if you're a bigger indie in today's world, try to avoid premium mobile. And if you want to do free-to-play mobile, the budgeting is very simple: 500,000 euros for your game, 2.5 million for marketing. So this is how those games work. It's very aggressive, performance-driven, performance marketing, growth hacker, paid influencer business. It's not organic, really. And we will see whenever Apple publishes some numbers on Apple Arcade, how nice it is to be on a premium subscription platform. But I still wait for that Apple number to appear. Maybe it's hard with investors to give out a number, but if the number would be great, I think we would have seen that number at least in the last quarterly conference or the next quarterly update for earnings. And if we never see it, it maybe was not such a big success. And maybe all Android platforms go together and do the same. But is this really a viable business model right now? I don't know, and I'm not sure. That's why I tell you, Steam right now is still for younger indie studios a very, very viable platform, because you get all that data for free that you might find for mobile on an App Annie or whatever. But for Steam, you get it for free. You can ask people. You can ask for more money for the same game. You have easier dev tools. Your game is impressive. And that's the next step. You can go on consoles quite easily, not from mobile. We had one studio last year launching on Apple Arcade. The developer was so happy to get so much money from Apple now, but his PlayStation version 3 months later tanked hard. Okay, it really flopped so hard that he stopped everything and went back frustrated because he wanted to be a famous PlayStation dev. Apple paid him a lot of money, but now he's a famous Apple Arcade dev. That's not the best thing in the world, right? Because it's maybe has a future, it maybe not has a future. And for consoles in 2020, as you know, there are 2 new platforms, next Xbox, next PlayStation. So the opportunity is to get on those. If not, you get maybe at the legacy platforms that are existing today. But it's still a market that has much more visibility than mobile, where visibility is almost zero, and much more visibility than Steam. There is like maybe 3x or 4x as much games on Xbox and PlayStation 4 than on 360 and 3, but that's not like 20 whatever fold or much more on Steam, where everybody now can publish any game. And if you want to know the secret of games that are on the Epic Store now and made developers super happy, or if you want to know how games work that do VR right now and are successful, they had platform holder meetings over the last probably century. And those guys do not just collect young indies to fill a platform. They go to all the people they know for many years. So you basically need to level up your relationship with even Steam and anybody else. And if you want to know where it was decided that you can be or you should be a launch title or a title that goes on the Epic Store soon, it was at an Unreal retreat in Morocco, invite only, okay? You get invited when you're known to do good Unreal games. Otherwise, you're not get invited. So you want to be at some day in the future in Morocco or wherever there's a retreat, and some epic XXS from a developer relations guy. Hey, I like your game. You want to be exclusive? I have some money for you. It's on top of everything you do else. We give you great support. We feature you in our main trailer. Or for Xbox, you can be at a press conference at E3, and I can tell you that is a very, very, very powerful tool, okay? And it's free. And there will be some PlayStation event you could be as an indie. There are maybe like 20 indie games, 200 press, attention, free. If you're on Oculus likes you, they tell you about the next platform early, you're going to be a launch title, free attention, again and again. That's by targeting. There is the traditional markets, America, Germany, France, UK, and also Japan. All those markets have one problem together. They are not really growing. They are not growing by 2 digits per year. They are pretty settled markets on what works and what not. If you want to have additional growth on your game and additional potential, you should release a version that is translated into Chinese and Russian. Why? Chinese easily nowadays, for simplified Chinese, support platforms that can be not blocked in China. You can have 25 to 75% of users for the normal Steam clients that is available also not really legally, like in a gray way in China. And if you talk to Chinese publishers on top for local Chinese platforms, and you get through the hard rating, aka censorship system, it could be much more sales, long-term sales. China nowadays is the biggest gaming market in the world. It's not anymore America. It's China, and it's growing fast. And Russia overtook in sales for several genres France, okay? In some cases, like a post-apocalyptic PvP grisly game, it's overtaking Germany. It has more sales than Germany, okay? And those Russians have the similar taste like all of Eastern Europe, and Poland is a good market right now. And for free to play, we currently, for one client, target every country in Eastern Europe because it's their growth market. And if you do something that works in China or Russia, it might also work in Turkey. And Turkey is another growing market. All of those named markets are more in PC and a little bit more free to play, and also quite strong on mobile. But those are really markets you need to target, okay? In today's world, you're not alone make a game for Europe and America any longer. You should not. And there can be a point in time where Latin America comes out of recession, corruption, and everything, and suddenly it's a growth period for Latin America again, like it was around maybe 8 years ago. And this really helped some games like League of Legends, World of Warcraft to really get a lot of additional users and money in Brazil and Mexico, etc. And if you want to know what is the next market you should go to and think about, at least read news on Gamma Sutra, Games Industry Biz about, it's India. India last year had so much growth, and mainly for one game, PUBG Mobile. It's pre-installed on affordable smartphones in a special tailored version. And this game went so viral that some state governments in India had to ban the game so they could police their citizens, okay? So those people were so new to gaming that they suddenly thought also their neighbor sits in a hut just like in PUBG and plays PUBG, so maybe I should be scared. said he comes over with a McCaddy and goes for me. Okay, this is this is how new the experience of such a game after all those little nice puzzler games was to them. Then is a chicken and egg thing. An important choice. Should you have a publisher or shouldn't you have a publisher? And I made some choice references here for you. Even if you have a small game, try to pitch your game if you want to have a publisher to very big publishers, because they have a business force that can afford to give you maybe even detailed feedback. So if they ever respond to you, it's a good sign, because they not respond to 80% of the emails they get. If you're in the 20%, you're already probably good enough for a small publisher, okay? And if they give you detailed feedback, especially on why they didn't pick your game, maybe in a phone call after they mailed you back, sorry, no, you maybe get some sense out of it why, and next time you get selected with your next game. Then there is a choice of established indie publisher versus a new indie publisher. And for some reason, every year, new indie publishers appear. It's like games on Steam, it never stops. And an established indie publisher will also very much tell you why he maybe not likes your game. That's very, very helpful. If he likes your game, it's great. You're with an established indie publisher. If you not want to self-publish, that's like being halfway there, because they will guide you. And new guys, always from somewhere, they do not tell me have a lot of money, okay? So they just sign the contract, give you that guarantee, that hopefully ends on your bank account, and then you maybe have an easier life. Will something happen to a new indie publisher 2 years later? I don't know. But if they go bankrupt, you still have that money and you can get your rights back. So it's maybe not that dangerous to do it if you have a good lawyer. And you need a good lawyer always, okay? Your lawyer is like a trainer. It's so important. If you have contracts, get a lawyer. Then you need to think about services offered, and do they have offices worldwide? Maybe even in China or Japan. That would be a very good sign of quality. Indie publisher or publisher with an office in China. If they're very old, they have, of course, an office in Japan. And if they not have an office everywhere, do what HeadUp or Dedelic or any of the German publishers do. They go to every PAX and every E3 and every other show, and they are present at least 2 continents. And I think that's the bare minimum for a good publisher, that he knows what to do in Europe and America, and better China and Japan. Ask them hard questions, like they ask you hard questions in the pitch about why you should hire them for a certain market. Ask them, why should I hire you about Japan? And if their answer is really not good, it's not a good publisher. It's that easy, because they maybe are good in America, they maybe are good in Europe, they maybe are good in both. If they're good somewhere else, also awesome. There is also one seal of quality for a good publisher. He has its own Steam sale. So there are only 52 weeks in a year, and some of them are taken by a Steam sale from Steam themselves, Halloween and summer and whatever. But if any guy, any publisher can pick up one of the other 40 or 50, 45 weeks left, he has its own sale, and he has the front page of Steam, and later on maybe the front page of the Epic Store, or just front page of the Xbox Store, or front page of the PlayStation or Switch Store. And that's good for you, because you're on the front page. That's a lot of bonus sales unlike a summer sale where you one of 800 games that goes into sale. Summer sale today is really ridiculous numbers of games go into sale. And the best sales, of course, for 80% off or for 50% off at least. Define a marketing budget, have it written in your contract, and then own maybe even how part of it is spent. Maybe you know your paid influencers, potential paid influencers better than that publisher. Maybe you know a local show you want to go to because you get free awareness. If you want to have a retail box, check if they have distribution, but right now physical distribution is dying, even in Germany. So if you do a game in 3 years, there is probably no more physical distribution. And a publisher can also help you to have legal support and especially localization and culturalization support. Why is that important? Many freelancers tell you they can do a good translation to French, but if it's Canadian French and you want to publish in France, it's not a good idea. Brazilian Portuguese versus Portuguese, really good Chinese, proper Turkish, that's all very, very helpful in the end. And a publisher will know where to get the best price for a good localization, to which language, and when to start to deal with it. And if you have chosen that mobile path and you did a very original good game, he helps you to deal with copycats. So if you do a mobile game, that's another funny thing with mobile. People will copy your game and publish it in other stores. Just rebrand it a little and get your revenue. Good. Then another important chapter, death by streaming, death by influencers. Now, how can this possibly happen? That something so good like an influencer video is so bad for you. Right now, best practice is if you have a single player story game, do not get it streamed too often. Do not get the whole game completed on YouTube and Twitch all the time, because the customers from those platforms will say, okay, I've seen all the game, now I don't need to buy it. And that's a really bad situation. And it happens to single player games that are not very repeatable, that have story twists and angles and spoilers. If you have a unique situation creator game, so every situation in your game is different, like many battle royale games, like Human Falls Flat, so a physics game is another good example. If there are weird outdated situations, if you are multiplayer, if you're a party game, then streaming as much as you can is awesome for you. And then you just need to deliver new content all the time, because those influencers get bored with you, and they will do so pretty quickly. Also, don't fall for the traps that the biggest influencers are the best for your game. They are not, okay? They are more seen like a comedy channel, and some guys will just fuse that girl because she's cute. Some girls will just fuse that guy because he's cute. It doesn't mean that they buy all the games they do. It's not a case anymore. This stopped a long time ago. And your influencers are the believable, trusted experts in your genre. And they can be small, 20,000, 50,000, up to 500,000. They can only have 1,000 followers, and they can even be friends as a small influencer with a big influencer, and he's the expert and the other guy is the mainstream guy, and then this converts into sales, okay? A very big influencer, if he streams your game for 2 hours, can be as low as 50, 100, or 10 sales. And you might have paid, or your publisher might have paid that guy or girl $5,000, $10,000 for those sales. Okay, it's a really big waste of money. That's why if you ever want to go down the way of paid campaigns, define a KPI, a key performance indicator. And those guys, especially the managers, will hate you on telling them, I pay per install, I pay per registration, I pay if you do 5,000 concurrent on Twitch for 2 hours, and you have a certain engagement rate in the channel, in the chat, on comments. And there are many such defining factors how we pay streamers, and especially the managers really don't like us for doing that. It's a very ugly, hard negotiation. It's like a Turkish bazaar with knives. And this is the way how you today can get value out of a payment for a streamer if the payment needs to be high. You can, if a streamer on a certain peak of day, you always have a peak in sales, and you know that Jürgen is online, then pay Jürgen. If he brings you 20 sold copies a day, you might want to give him a nice thank you gift for streaming your game every day. Okay, that's small, but that's like organic and thank you, and that is really helping your game. And one ugly thing to do, you also do it in Dark Souls, just try to kill the other guy in your game and try to go for your competitors, developers, streamers. And this really works because your streamer might be very bored with his game, and then he wants to stream another game, and suddenly he's your streamer, not the other guy's streamer. Then somebody is not happy, but you convert exactly within the genre and the target group of your game. And this is what many companies actually do. They search for competitors, streamers. And another pro of streamers is if you pay them or if they are your friends, they don't need to be neutral. They can be super fanboys. GameStar or IGN cannot be super fanboys of your game from back to front. They need to be critical. Streamers can just give you love and love and love. So that's a big advantage of streamers. Death by timing. So this year, the plan is pretty simple. Avoid September for Cyberpunk, except this guy, he has to do crunch or all of September and then fix bugs all of October. But just try to avoid it. This year it's really bad as this game moved. Some games got moved out of April just to avoid Cyberpunk. And now suddenly they're launching again in the same month with Cyberpunk. And this game will create, just like PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, so many clicks for websites, like 7-fold the clicks of you get for normal news, that they will do this all the time, okay? And October is the ramp-up month for the new consoles, and likely November will be the launch month. And Sony and Microsoft will fight to the hilt on winning awareness, on winning the press and influencers, and will have tons of events and ton of new games allowed, etc. So just this year, do not launch or announce or do anything with your game. Just stay in stealth mode September to November, okay? Doesn't make sense to go for the big guys. It was never a good idea over the last 2 years to launch an indie game October and November. This year, this idea is much worse, okay? You can pick the summer months. You can do parts of December. Next January is maybe ideal. Next February, good. Next March, GDC, not so good. Next April, well, says Berlin Games Week and Reboot, but still doable. And then again, it goes off to normal waters. And you need to be very precise with your timing. You need to prepare your launch to a certain date that is not September, not Final Fantasy VII even, and whatever. And you then need to, if you want to go down the route of press with briefings, prepare that very carefully for a certain day that is your embargo date. And you might even want to NDA people if you do this for a month or so they cannot spoil your release. And then you do a reveal or an announce. And this, in today's world, might be your biggest PR beat. It's not maybe your launch. It might be your announcement and your preview or your early access preview with a really nice trailer, with social media, with everything chimed in. This might be your biggest impact in the gaming world, not your release, especially not with an early access game. It's not review phase. It's nice, but it's not the most essential thing. And one thing you need to always remember, do not launch during expos or very big conferences because the attention will be somewhere else. And the biggest mistake you can do for a European developer is to launch your game during Gamescom, because that's like 1.5 months of press and influencer attention taken away before and shortly after, and especially during, for anything that's out in the times. They only want to hear about a game that's new in those 1.5 months. Okay, so they want to learn about new stuff, not stuff that is released now. It's boring. And if you send out Steam keys during Gamescom week, everybody will forget about it. And after that week, it's old news. Nobody will do it. And there is so many news. So many people will be sick by flu, hopefully not by corona. And this is the worst timing you can have. And it would be even better if you launched during Christmas. So just think about those timings, okay? Plan it. And if a week is bad because there's Final Fantasy VII or Cyberpunk, just go a week later or 2 weeks later if you hopefully can afford. Good. This is now the place where you die at the end. Please think about post-launch. There is today launching a game and being done with it is not a valid concept anymore. Think about, if you not want to be a game as a service, think about add-ons. Before you launch a game, think about platforms like going console after PC. Think about your mobile version if you have a good success. So after it, you can do mobile as additional platform. Many platforms offer it easy. And communicate your updates very well. I got tips from US developers that say, I release my updates every month, second Wednesday, 6 p.m. Okay? And then their fans, their community can rely every second Wednesday, 6 p.m. something is happening to my game. And this shows trust, reliability in an early access world. And one other thing I saw last GDC was transparent bug fixing. So they put up a database with all their bugs and tell you when they're going to fix it. So this is a really good builder of trust on how the game and maybe that stuck bug somebody has is going to go away. One game that now does a lot of things right, did a great launch with a surprise influencer campaign, was Apex Legends. They had all the content, and in the end they found out, shit, we not have enough content to give news, and then the curve was like this, okay? And getting back up to where Apex is now costs the A so much money that you want to avoid these mistakes because you not have EA's pockets, okay? Good, so that was all I can tell you. I hope you liked it.